So last night, we just witnessed one of the ugliest playoff losses in recent Los Angeles Lakers history. And after the game was over with, so obviously with that loss, the Denver Nuggets go up 3-0. It looks like it is going to be a sweep for back-to-back seasons with the Nuggets prevailing over the Lakers. After the game was over with, I'm always conflicted with this, right? When I'm really disappointed in a team's performance, I'm always conflicted about, should I spend more time complaining about the team that lost, or should I talk more about the team that won, right? Was last night about Denver being that much better than LA, or was it more about the Lakers just mentally giving in? And you could feel that for the entirety of the game, really. Even when they got off to that fast start, you kind of knew if one thing goes wrong in this game, if there's one run the Nuggets have, I don't feel confident that the Lakers mentally are at a point to where they can respond. And that part was so glaring. It's hard to focus on how good Denver was. And they were amazing. They were so in sync. I think this was their most in sync game of the series. They were unbelievable. Even with Jokic being hunted to be in foul trouble, they still stayed with it. They still stayed true to themselves. They still played a great game of basketball, and they executed at a very high level. Great game, especially from Aaron Gordon, who's proving that he's one of the best kind of non-all-star role player type of guys in the NBA. But all of that being said, the Lakers and their lack of mental toughness last night was just so glaring. It's hard to focus on how good Denver was. It's hard to not spend most of our time complaining about that horrific display the Lakers put on. You had a horrible shooting game where they were like in the teens from the three-point line. They cannot get anything going from a defensive standpoint. Role players were horrible. And coming into this series, we talked about the importance of that. Role players have to show up. Non-all-stars have to show up. We know we're going to get that from a team like Denver, where guys like MPJ, Aaron Gordon, so many guys, Christian Brown, so many rotation players are going to show up. For the Lakers, you didn't get that. You didn't get it. You have D'Angelo Russell, who is a former NBA All-Star, who was really good during the regular season, who had one good game so far this series and disappeared the other two. You have Austin Reaves, who didn't have many good moments this series either. Rui Hachimura couldn't shoot anything to save his life for this entire series. Role players just did not show up at all. And I think that was one of the biggest differences, was how good Denver's role players were versus how bad the Lakers role players were. That's really what it came down to on the basketball side of things. There were a lot of other X's and O's things and stuff like that, but the role players and the lack of execution thereof for the Lakers destroyed them. And what pisses me off is this is a well-built roster. We can complain so much about the Lakers. I think this is a team on paper that should be way better than what we've seen them be so far this series. Austin Reaves, Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, Spencer Dinwiddie, D'Angelo Russell. That's who you surrounded around LeBron James and Anthony Davis. On paper, that is an amazing rotation of guys outside of your two best players. It's really good. I mean, on paper, it stacks up with Denver's role players. Period, point blank. But those guys just did not bring it. And I think the entire season, we were watching them, and well, me personally, I was kind of excited, like, oh, they've got AR playing like this, and they've got D'Lo playing like this. This year in the postseason is going to be different. But some people still didn't really believe it. Some people still didn't really buy into it. And I feel like we're still going to run into the same issues in the playoffs. And here we are, same issues. Major discrepancy in how well your role players are performing. It was bad. And then on top of that, like I said, it was just the lack of mental toughness. You watch this game, you could kind of tell, man, they checked out a little too early. You should never check out at any point of the game, but they checked out. In that second half, you felt it, that they had checked out. It was hideous. And so now you look back at, and it looks like it's going to end up being a sweep. I mean, I would love for them to make NBA history and come back from down 3-0. If they come back from down 3-0, they're winning the NBA championship. Point blank, period. But I don't think that's going to happen. And so if they end up getting swept, which I think will, I mean, maybe they get one, but then they have to go back in Denver in game 5, and I don't see them winning that game at all. You have to look back at this Lakers stint, right, in the LeBron era. So your first year, LeBron gets there. He's there with a bunch of young guys that, in my opinion, I mean, you ended up getting a championship out of it. But if the franchise would have been patient enough to develop them, maybe things will look a little better. That's major. That's a major if. But LeBron gets there his first year, you don't make the playoffs. Then his second year, you're great, win an NBA championship. Third year, you let a lot of guys walk that you should have brought back, and you bring in a lot of really good guys like Montrezl Harrell and guys like that, and you're really, really disappointing. 2022, disappointing season. You missed the playoffs entirely. 2023, Western Conference Finals run. And then here we are now, you're about to get swept by the same team that beat you in the Western Conference Finals. So what do we look at these LeBron years in LA like? How do we view them? Do we view it as a success? I don't think so. If you have a core of LeBron James and Anthony Davis and a revolving door of really, really good role players, I mean, let's think about it. Russell Westbrook over the years, right? Like I said, D'Angelo Russell. A lot of really good role players came in and out of this roster. Dennis Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell. I may be missing a couple of guys. And still, we're not able to replicate that success they got to in 2020 when they won in the bubble. So I don't know really how to evaluate the LeBron era in Los Angeles. It was really tough to evaluate. And I think this, where we're at right now, is very tough to see anything getting better from here. I don't think there's going to be a better on-paper team than what they have this year. There's nothing else the Lakers can do to make me feel confident they can win a title with AD and LeBron as their core as far as building around them. I don't think you get any better than this. Coming into the season, I'm like, man, y'all got Gabe Vincent, D'Lo, y'all got all of these guys. How does your roster get any better from this? There may be some loose ends here and there. They may need some small pieces, but that is a supporting cast you should be able to win with. Austin Reaves just played for Team USA in the offseason and got a contract extension. The role players don't get any better than this. Your question is, what is it for the Lakers if LeBron ends up coming back, right, after this offseason, and you're going to have AD back, and maybe you change coaches. But what is it for the Lakers that can get them back into title-winning position? What is it? I don't think there's going to be a more successful offseason than what they had last offseason. They picked up so many great guys. They re-signed so many great guys. And here they are. Now, they did deal with injuries, but even when Gabe Vincent was out there, nothing. And I know he had to kind of work his way into the lineup, and it's tough to do that if you didn't play a majority of the season, and they were without Jared Vanderbilt. But still, very disappointing stuff from LA. And as I said, I don't want to take any credit away from Denver. Denver was flat out amazing, but you could just feel how much the Lakers checked out of that game. You could just feel it. So now your thing is, where do you go from there? I don't think mentally they're tough enough. I don't think mentally they're tough enough right now to go win game 4 and at least make this a little bit more competitive than just a sweep. So your question is, where do the Lakers go from here this offseason? I don't know. Maybe you run it back and trade some of the guys not named LeBron James and Anthony Davis and see what guys you can end up bringing back. But I don't see a supporting cast on paper better than this. I really, really don't. This team here should have been a Western Conference Finals team. This team here should have been a team that could take Denver to 7. On paper, with how much work they put into the offseason and the fact that you have 2 top 5 caliber players at the top of the helm, this team should have been a Western Conference Finals level squad. Yet here we are. This team shouldn't have been seated this low. They shouldn't have been a 7. They should not have been in a position where they would have to play the defending champions in the first round, where they have to be in the play-in tournament. They shouldn't be there. This team should have been way better than what they were. So where do the Lakers go in the offseason? That is the biggest question. Shout out to Denver. They were obviously amazing, but you could just feel how much the Lakers checked out of that game. And it's such a point of concern for Lakers fans who have been hoping for this team to get back to that level that they reached in 2020.